All right, guys, we're back at ATF. Transmission is ready to go on the dyno, and as you can see, it's got the bolt together converter in there, and it looks way nicer. 6-volt converter too, instead of just the 3 like we were doing, so that'll be a lot safer. We didn't introduce you properly last time, but this is Jason, owner of ATF.
Yep.
And he is the mastermind behind all of their converters and trans technology, dump valve stuff, and all the cool stuff that you guys do to help these cars go faster. You have been pioneering for a lot of years.
I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
Much longer than people know.
I can tell by hanging out in the waiting room and seeing the cars that are up on the wall that we're racing before I was even out of freaking middle school. It's crazy to see. And they put back together my trans here, and it's got a new dump valve and everything on the side here. I think we can turn it somehow, right? Yeah. Show them all the new stuff. There you go. Fresh parts. It looks like you changed up the routing a little bit. It used to dump, like, it was kind of bolted directly onto the case, but I mean, it's all the same stuff.
Yeah, it makes them a little tighter when we do them like that. We've got a couple different ways of doing it.
It all depends on how it fits in the chassis, really.
Yeah.
So sweet, and then we're gonna put it on the dyno, make sure it goes through the gears, and I mean that's pretty much it, right? You don't like get it up on the brake or anything, do you? I don't know.
Yeah, no, we're gonna put on a trans brake. We're gonna measure everything. We're gonna measure the converter charge pressure and flow and line pressure, and we'll see how fast the trans brake reacts and make sure that our pump volume's where it needs to be, and when we're done, it'll be good to go.
It's crazy to imagine that this motor is gonna put this trans and converter up on the brake, but I guess with the dump valve too, it does it.
Well, it's not going to be like you banging up on a chip at 4,500, and you know it's going to be whatever this motor goes to, 3,000, 3,500, or whatever, whatever we can get it to, and we'll go from there.
Sweet. Well, we'll have this thing bolted up onto the dyno in a minute here. Yeah, you can see that one is not how it's supposed to look.
That's the one the thrust washer was hanging out of, and obviously it allowed it to dig in. The rest of them are all fine, and technically we could have machined that and double stacked your washers, but we have a better solution than that.
There are cooler parts than...
Yeah, we don't do things half-assed.
This is that a stock part, or is that a...
No, that's an aftermarket.
Oh, I didn't know if like you just... Because all these Powerglides use so much stock parts, it seems like it's crazy.
It's a cast iron carrier, similar to like the stock 176 planet that came in the Powerglide. But this is set up with a bolt-on output shaft, so you can service it a little easier, be able to take it apart and get in there and work on it.
Interesting.
So we make these out of built aluminum as well. So let's go grab one of those.
Yeah, let's see that. Well, there's the new one. You can tell it's clearly a lot nicer, and you guys made this completely in-house.
Yes.
Which is really cool too, because the more ATF parts I have in that trans, the more comfortable I feel about running that transmission.
Right. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
That's what separates us from a lot of the other assemblers out there.
Yep. This is not just your transmission shop that orders everything and throws it together waiting on parts from other people. Like you guys are actually making this stuff, and wow, that's so nice.
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff that people don't know about. I mean, this is just a 400 what we're building here for another customer. We do it Powerglide length. It's got a billet tail housing that we make.
Oh, the Powerglide length is nice.
It's a Powerglide length 400, right?
Yeah.
So we can take a Powerglide out, put a 400 in. The only thing you really got to change is your cross member mount and your shifter bracket on the pan.
I like the sound of that.
So
that's convenient.
So later we might go down this path.
Once
we make billet pistons for the 400s. Get rid of the cast aluminum pistons. This one's getting a reed bell on the front of it, so we make a reed bell adapter and we machine the case to put the reed bell on the front of it. We make billet valve bodies for the 400. This is an internal brake design that we came up with.
Oh man. So also, if you guys can't tell, 400s are your normal bread and butter.
We do a lot. We used to do a lot more Powerglides than anything, but now we do a lot of A340s and turbo 400s.
Yeah.
A lot.
Because everybody drag racing really fast now. 400's the real go-to.
To be honest with you, what happened was 8th mile racing became very popular, and the gearing of a 400 favors the 8th mile racing versus a Powerglide. Like a Powerglide with a 180 or a 169 first gear, even down to a 158, sometimes that's too aggressive. And a 400 with a stock gear set in second gear is 148, so it's even a little bit less than a Powerglide. And then you can go all the way down into the 120s with a 400. So it kind of fits better because of the application.
Yep.
400 is hands down a better tranny in my opinion. It's stronger by far.
Yeah.
It's 3 gears, gives us some options to do. We can play around with the ratios a lot. The one we're building right now is actually a lockup. This one's getting a billet pump with a lockup. We're doing a lockup bolt together converter for this one as well. So again, we may cross that bridge with you.
Yeah, so that's going to be a bad tranny that you put together.
Bad dude
that's
right
going to be a...
Yeah. Believe it or not, this one's actually going into a swamp buggy.
Oh, all right.
We have a big race coming up in May out in the Everglades. It's called May Day, and we have a big block on nitrous that's going to be running with this setup, and we'll be drag racing our swamp buggies.
The lockup makes a lot more sense now too, because those guys definitely like their lockups.
Well, they like to run for 2 to 5 miles too. You know what I mean? And it's, people don't know, when you get off into that grass out in the Everglades, it consumes all your power. It's insane how much drag it puts on your vehicle. So we're using the lockup to try to just get that to get off the stall of the converter, so we're not melting the transmission out of the buggy in 2 miles.
Yep. And I actually saw a couple of people comment why I don't have a lockup, and because if we tried to lock up my motor and we did it wrong,
it's hard on the engine.
We would probably just kick all the rods out of it.
We'd detonate the heck out of it.
Yeah.
It's you know, the smaller the engine, obviously, the harder it is to get lockup to benefit you as much. So, you know, big motors and lightweight cars, you can just turn lockup on real soon. It'll drag it right through the track, right down the track. But when you have a little bit heavier car and it's got a 2J in it, it's it takes a little more finesse to get the benefit from lockup in that.
It's not a diesel truck. Like,
it doesn't have the torque to really, you know, a lot of people, when you hit the lockup, if you watch the G meter, if you have a G meter on your race pack or your Haltech or Fuel Tech or whatever it is, you can hit the lockup and watch the G meter, and if the G meter falls, you know that you're in too soon and you need to wait till later. So a lot of people will go to a lockup system and they'll gain 2 or 3 mile an hour in the run, but they'll actually lose ET because they're using it too soon and the motor just can't drag it through fast enough. So,
and it's crazy to me that 400s are all like stock case. That's like, a lot of them are just like a stock case 400 going real fast.
So the difference in that is, on a Powerglide, hydraulic pressure is what's breaking the case. It's not the actual force of the motor, you know, it's the hydraulic pressure. So if we take a Powerglide and we want to hold 1500 to 2000 horsepower, we're going to turn that line pressure up to like 240 or 250, something like that. Well, that hydraulic pressure now in the reverse clutch in the back can split the case, or on your servo on the side when the low band, when you're in first gear and you go up on the trans brake and all that pressure comes up, it can split the side of the case. So that's why they go to aftermarket. On a 400, there's no hydraulics trying to break the case. It's just sitting there holding everything, and it's much easier on the case in that application.
So you do all 4L80 stuff too, which is really, really juicy for all the GM guys out there. They love 4L80s, die hard for them. They need their overdrive.
Yeah.
I like simplicity of a 400 or a Powerglide, but I love the overdrive idea with a trans brake and everything. It's very cool. So you're putting trans brakes on 4L80s.
I don't know why it's showing transparency right now, but
you do it all on SolidWorks.
Right, we lay the whole thing out in SolidWorks, and then when we machine everything, and you know, it comes out right. Obviously, we have a 4L80 case that we cut the bell and stuff off of, and but I can take any one of these pieces and hide it. I can see where we make our accumulator plate for it, and the valve body. So I have the transparency where you can see through it, just so you can try to get an idea how everything, you know, fits in there, and then your worm tracks in there. But that's how we kind of design our hydraulic stuff.
Because you're working with a valve body, which is like 3-dimensional fluid dynamics, and you can't just...
Right, well, the pressure starts in the pump, right? Goes to the valve body, and then the valve body disperses it. So we kind of start there, and then we come in, and if you look at these lines, when I zoom in them, I'll put arrows on them and stuff like that. So when you look at it real quick, you know, and obviously a solid line for me is in the case, and a dotted line is in the valve body. So it helps me understand where it's all going, so that I can change it. Right? That's all we do, is change everything that the dealers make.
GM did it one way, and you're optimizing it for speed instead of...
Right. This one's all about trans brake. Obviously, this is an internal trans brake, uses a Powerglide solenoid. It's set up just like the 400 billet valve body we do internal. So this valve body works fantastic with a bump box. You have trans brake in first or second if you want it. or you could put it in drive and it works in drive, and you would never have to move the shifter, and you could have a Holly or a Fuel Tech or something shift the transmission for you.
That is really cool though for a lot of like the truck guys and stuff like that. Like,
yeah, we have an all-wheel drive Tahoe that we've got one in. It makes about 1,700 at the wheels. Donks Cadric with Blue Magic, that put down 2,000 at the wheels with a 28-inch wheel. So our four ladies we've got them working fantastic now with this new valve body setup that we're running. We've had that valve body out for about a year, but now we have it extremely perfected perfectly.
So there's a bolt together converter. It's so cool to see it like that, where you can just open up everything, and I mean, you had a cutout of it before, and that's so crazy. The SolidWorks stuff makes this whole job so different. All the innards.
Right, so we can click on something, just open up one part at a time.
Alright, so there's the dump valve, and that's how a sensor would go on it too. It's perfect. Yeah. That's exactly what I need to do when I get home. Yeah, so it's way different being able to see stuff like this.
It shows the internal workings of it, and the regulator, and the valve, and the spring. Gives us the ability to do a full assembly on everything. Yep. So we know exactly how everything's going to fit and what hole sizes need to be. And there you go. So now I can slow that down, and I can click on run, and it'll show the machine actually making it. And I can turn on the cabinet and everything. I got it off right now just so you can see it. Yeah. But that shows the machine actually running the simulation with the 5-axis, everything on the table to make sure there's no collisions, whatnot.
Making a mid plate for some kind of Powerglide to something.
Well, that's a Chevy engine into a Mustang, like a SN95 or a Fox body. Plate's what that's for. I think that's actually for an S197. But the full machine simulation is a much valuable tool for me. Like when we start doing our billet stators on the 5th axis, which we have right now, it's going to show us any collision, any crashes, any shank rubs on the tool. So we'll be able to perfect the program before it goes in the machine.
So it'll make it on there, and then it'll also put it back so you can see it again in 3D after you made it, so you can see if it nicked any spot or anything.
Right, exactly.
Pretty cool. Exactly. That is awesome. So here's the layout of the dump valve. This is the, you know, probably 1 cent piece that failed. Of course, you know, it's always the littlest stuff. I mean, I've watched injector O-rings do this to cars, and thankfully this was not even really bad at all, honestly. But
so we figured out that
that is X-ring.
It's called an X-ring. It's made out of a Buna N material, which is only rated up to about 250 degrees. So what we did was we ordered some made out of Viton, which will take us up to 400 degrees, and we also ordered them in a harder durometer. Like these are like a 60 to a 70 Shore. We ordered some that are 90, and we think that that'll give us a little more tension as well in trying to hold that seal tight. We just don't have them in yet. They're in transit. They'll be here probably Monday. Yep.
Like everything right now is
in transit. Right now you're back together with a Buna N. So what I'm going to do, I mean, it's real simple to change it. I'm going to, as soon as those O-rings come in, we're going to have an O-ring kit basically that we'll be able to service all of our dump systems with. It'll be available to the public, and it'll be the better Viton material. So it'll be more heat resistant than what we had. So we take this, we learn from it, we make it better.
Yep. Saw the problem, solution was found, and it's
yeah. So what we found is when the actual valve is screwed all the way in, and this is your line from your cooler line, so the pressure's coming in into the port right here. It goes into the valve. It's supposed to deadhead here, but with that O-ring being bad, it was able to just turn and come right out which is the exhaust on the bottom, and just go right back into the pan. It just basically made the loop, so you didn't have any charge pressure.
And what kind of pressure is that under? Like the pressure coming in is...
Well, this has a regulator built into it, so the pressure coming in could be as high as 200 psi. Yeah. It's not usually that high. It's usually around 100 to 150. We use the regulators to bring them down to about 75, like on your 2J application. So it's definitely enough to get past that ring and create obviously the problems that you had, which was no charge pressure, blowing through the converter, making stupid amounts of heat when that happens.
Yeah,
right?
All stuff you don't like.
But yeah, I mean, what we did, we put it on the dyno, we plugged it in, we turned it on, and the fluid was just running out of here. So what we did was we started measuring, looking at the ring. When this ring was on there, we measured it. It was basically the same diameter as the shaft, so there was absolutely no seal left in it. So we just changed the O-ring, pressure came right back.
And I would venture to guess that me not cooling my transmission down enough between rounds didn't help.
Right.
And then it getting hot that previous pass, it built up.
It took a little time, right? So it just kept eating away at that seal, and that got less tension. Yeah. But I mean at 250, we know we're getting 250 because this is right out of the converter, right? The converter line pressure coming out, going into the dump, that's right out of the converter. That's no cooler, no chance to cool down. That's the highest heat point you're gonna have in the whole setup.
And I sometimes have to sit on my brake just to get it up there. And then also, you know, waiting for the other guy to potentially second bulb or hopefully go in after him. But, you know, that's always the roll of the dice, what the other guy's going to do.
Right.
Talk about the setup here a little bit, because this is your hundreds of thousands of miles on it, Crown Vic motor. And then a Powerglide that's probably going to be hit with somewhat of 1,500 to 1,600 horsepower. Yep. It's getting lightly broken in by about 180 to 200 right now.
On a good day.
Oh yeah, on good air. We got good air right now, so it's making a little more steam. But you guys have it all set up. You have this so you can test all your Powerglides, all your Turbo 400s, all your A340s
yeah,
before they leave.
4 70Ws, E4Ds, 4 100s. We can bolt just about everything on there. Gen 3 Hemi stuff. We've got adapter plates for it all.
And then you have all your switches to get it up on the brake.
Yeah, which we're revamping. I mean, obviously we got the fuel tech and we're doing a whole new switch panel. I just got to finish getting it all tightened up, and then we're going to go to the fuel tech and get rid of all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Now the fuel tech's not necessary to run a Powerglide, but what we're thinking with the fuel tech, right, is to be able to put a transducer all built into the dyno, so when we run somebody's training, we could actually log it with the fuel tech.
Yep.
And I could show them a log of their transmission running and what pressures it made, and torque converter pressure and flow and all that stuff. And that's kind of where we're going. We need a little more data, because some people question, well, you didn't dyno my tranny. Yeah, we did. I promise you we did.
Yeah, most trans use a little more data than my simple. I mean, when did these come out? The 60s? Like, Powerglides have been in cars forever. There was no data available when these came out, so.
Yeah, well, originally they were cast iron, right?
Yeah.
In the 50s.
So we're gonna run this thing through the paces, get it up on the trans brake, make sure the dump valve's working right, see what the converter's acting like, and, you know, take it home and put it back in the car and go racing.
Let's do it.
That's the goal.
All right.
Stand where?
I'm gonna stand right here.
All right.
So for reverse, right, you just want to use the trans brake. For the valve, we can straight cut gear set. Now we're going neutral. Go to low gear. So in low gear, we can run it. We can see we're making the 200. Line pressure over here. You're set at 75 to 80 right now. That's based off of this regulator right there. If I can adjust this, and I need this cap to adjust that.
So you can fine tune the regulator, what pressure you want it to leave, depending on what the motor combo is.
Right, and then if I hit the trans brake button, now we have the dump and the trans brake wired together.
Yep.
So if I hit the button, it's going to lock. It's also going to drop the charge pressure right there.
And that's what allows us to get up on the brake so fast.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
Right, so that's showing us that the dump is actually working, and now our charge pressure's rock solid. As soon as we get off of it, it comes right back.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's like instant.
So now we know we have good charge pressure, so we can put it on the brake. Just trying to keep it kind of easy because we're standing there.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving, rotating objects here, yeah.
Yeah, which we are about to build a cover for this after our accident that we had. We It's crazy that I talk about it and then a day later we have an accident. So we definitely have to revamp this thing a little bit.
Need some bulletproof glass, like right here.
Yep. Yeah, we got to put a shield over that.
Yep.
Definitely have to put a shield. So what it is right now, this is a manual line lock. So when I dump that, I dump all the pressure on that brake. So now if I run it, there's no drag whatsoever. We actually had it with quite a bit of drag on the brake. That's why I didn't want to turn without me having to really throttle into it. You know what I mean?
So you can kind of simulate almost like a more powerful motor.
Well, we can simulate the load of the car.
Yeah.
So we can actually put a load on it and make sure that when it does go into gear, it's all the way into gear. Another thing that's nice about this dyno is, you know, we can put it in park and we can spin this and we can make sure that park actually holds.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because a lot of times with Powerglides, they'll the way the cases are made and the linkage and stuff like that, you can have some parks where they'll click and they're not quite locked in, and we got to go in and tweak them just a hair to make sure that park is real solid. But we adjust the band one more time. We rinse the pan out just to make sure everything's nice and clean before you get it. Make sure there's no metal in there from us dynoing it, because if we see metal, we immediately go back in and make sure we don't have something rubbing or touching or something like that, because when you build these, right, everything is new. It's not, so when you take parts from a couple different manufacturers and you put them together, there's always room for something to be touching or rubbing, or you need a bigger chamfer on this land where it's next to a bearing or something like that. So we're very thorough in our testing and checking.
That's definitely going the extra mile, because most companies will just put a part together and just ship it off. And a lot of companies do that, but to actually pull it back apart, pull the pan off, is actually really surprising to me, because I wouldn't think to really do that. You're like, oh, it ran good, and ship it off.
It just gives us a lot of confidence in our product, knowing that when it leaves, it's right.
I like that. I definitely like it being right before you put it in your car, because you know this is easy to do. It's easy to put it on a bench like this.
Right.
It's work sometimes to get it into a car.
For sure.
I mean, like a Supra, getting a Powerglide or a 400, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
My car is a little easier. Yeah. Oh yeah.
That 400.
A lot of time with a hammer.
It kicked his butt. Let me tell you. I felt bad for him.
Yep. So they've built all Baltic Supras transmissions from the start, and I said Pedro last time. People don't realize it's Baltic Supra, and he's really awesome. You guys should check him out too. He's been pushing the ATF program with their trans many years. Yeah. So check out Pedro. Can't appreciate that guy enough. He's always been really cool every time I'm with him.
Baltic Supra is his YouTube channel.
Trans and converter are done. We just tested them on the dyno. ATF got it all taken care of super quickly. Can't wait to put this thing back in the car and go testing. They mounted the dump valve off to the side a little bit, tuck it nicer in the chassis, which is really awesome. Gonna box it up, send me on my way back to Bradenton.
Can you get some stickers now?
I got some stickers. I got the big one on the back, but I need another one on the fender. I came all the way down here for the stickers, actually. That'll do it, man. I mean, thank you guys so much for everything. It's been
rock and roll.
So killer working with you guys, and trans is ready to go back in. Car's ready to rip a little bit, and then, you know, keep running it like this until it's time for more upgrades.
There you go.
Because that's every racer. What's my next upgrade is everybody's mindset, right?
What's the next upgrade? We know what that is. That's 400.
I know. I've been eyeing 400 since I got here. So we're gonna keep running this Powerglide for a while, and then we'll talk 400s next time.
Yep, most definitely.
All right, guys, just left ATF a couple hours ago. Still heading home, but just wanted to hop on here, outro the video, issue a huge thanks to ATF. Those guys are freaking awesome. They put in the work to make the transmission right, and I am just ever thankful. So happy to have them part of my team and in my corner for this car. Definitely couldn't do it without them. Go check them out if you guys need any like 2J specific parts, big block, freaking LS, whatever you need trans converter wise, they pretty much got you covered. So go check them out, guys. But that'll do it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Keep it saucy.